Thank you very much, Dona de Costa-Martinez. Our presentation highlighted two things. One is that service providers really need to be clear on what the implications of legislative change are, and those service providers, not just those doing sexual and reproductive health services, but also teachers and guidance counselors and others that are working with young people. And the second point that I think comes out of our presentation is that what we're talking about is not just an issue that can be resolved by legislative change alone, and in fact requires a cross-sectoral collaboration between the Ministry of Education, providing school-based health and family life education, sex education, and Ministry of Health, as well as the legal changes by the AG's office. Okay, our next speaker is Ms. Brenda Gopeesingh. She's a business entrepreneur, independent researcher, and social and cultural activist. She's a founding member of the Hindu Women's Organization of Trinidad and Tobago and currently holds the position of president. She has served on the board of the network of non-governmental organizations for the advancement of women and is also a long-standing member of CAFRA. Ms. Gopeesingh was awarded a gold medal for the development of women at the Independence National Awards ceremony in 2011. And I know Folade mentioned that she's a member of the coalition, but I really do want to take a moment to acknowledge both Brenda Gopeesingh and the Hindu Women's Organization's singular leadership in this issue. Before many other voices were involved from as far back as 2011, they produced this document on 16 Days of Activism, presenting a Hindu view on the work that they wanted to do around rejecting violence against women. And also in 2014, under the leadership of Brenda Gopeesingh, you also saw a ton of perspectives being documented in terms of changing these marriage laws. These documents are 2011, 2014, and Brenda Gopeesingh has been a leading voice in this issue. Brenda?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the IGDS for giving me the opportunity to present on behalf of the Hindu Women's Organization. My paper will reflect on how the issue of child marriage became a national one, and what prompted the HW to engage in the advocacy for change from November 2011 to May 2013. I will follow up on the period June 2013 to the end of 2015, when the issue remained almost dormant, and I will shift its revival in 2016. The HW then began collaborating with the coalition formed by Bernard to continue advocating statement to the AG's office on 1st of July 2016. Our thrust at building public awareness for the negative impact of child marriage began with the publication of a booklet entitled Hinduism, the Overview, and Rejecting Violence Against Women. This is what Gabrielle showed you. This was funded by UN Women Caribbean and launched on December 6, Human Rights Day. The launch was held at the auditorium of the Ballot with support from the National Council of Indian Culture, the executive body of which is largely controlled by men. When the United Nations Human Rights Council periodic report was due in March 2012, we proceeded to have a public discussion. The strategies we chose to pursue this issue reflected our aim to educate the public and ourselves on the horrendous effects of child marriage. Public discussion number 1 was held under the auspices of the former mayor of Chabonas, Orlando Nagasa, at the auditorium of the borough. Having addressed the audience at the launch of our booklet, he discerned the value of widening public awareness to the issue. At this session, we chose women leaders from 4 religious persuasions: Christian, Hindu, Muslim, and Orisha. These were Anne-Marie Serju, Pandita Indrani Ramprasad, who is a founding member of the Hindu Women's Organization, and Rose Mohammed, who is a leader among Muslim women, and Ilya Lode from Mauritius. We also had presentations from Anusha Ravi and Sarah Navi. Anusha was a PhD student and Sarah is just doing her MSc. They are students at IGDS. All the speakers were rational in their views and they rejected child marriage. Although these were well received, the petition we presented did not achieve consensus, as one leader expressed the need for further consultation on other members of our organization. When we learned that the periodic report to the UNHRC was postponed to June 2012, we decided to hold a second public discussion, where we again presented our petition. On this occasion, we were able to partner with the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association to bring the views of the medical and legal profession to our audience. This time, funding came from the Minister of Gender, Youth and Child Development, Ernest Rose being the minister at the time. Dr. Vidya Maraj, obstetrician, gynecologist, and district medical officer of St. George East, explored the medical disadvantages at length. Gayatri Pargas, human rights lawyer, she was attached with Children's Authority, I think, pointed to the contradictions of the various marriage acts. She observed that the different laws governing the age of consent to sexual relations and the legal age of 18 to enter into a contract are in conflict with each other. She said, having sex with a minor between the ages of 14 to 16 might be negotiable, but under 14, the offense is liable to a life sentence in prison. Sarah Nabi examined the psychosocial impact of early marriage. Within heteronormative relationships, the male-female power dynamic is usually skewed against the female. This more often than not results in abuse, she said. An interactive discussion took place. And this time, when our resolution was proposed by me and seconded by Kamala Tiwari, it was passed unanimously. It stated that while we encourage individuals to marry at age 18 and over, that we keep a safety net of age 16 with the consent from the child, parents, or guardians until such time that the age of consent is raised to 18. The petition was circulated through our membership in various districts, and in September we put it online. From time to time, the newspaper published comments we made at different venues. By November, Mr. Jerry Brooks, CEO for the UNFPA, in his report to the nation, called on government to repeal the Marriage Acts of Trinidad and Tobago. By early January 2013, we realized that we were being totally ignored by government. We lobbied 2 independent senators to raise the issue in their presentations at the Senate. This they did on March 19, 2013, when Senator Helen Drayton described the laws as discriminating against children, while Senator Harold Ramkisoon referred to our marriage laws as oppressive and archaic. Having made the recommendations for changes to the Marriage Act to the Child Protection Task Force, of which I was a member, its chairperson, Diana Mahavir, included it in the second report of the CPTF to the Prime Minister in March 2014. The issue was again highlighted by various women's groups during observances of International Women's Day. By the end of April, our petition had accumulated close to 1,000 signatures, and we presented these along with our resolution to the Minister of Legal Affairs, Mr. Prakash Ramada, on May 1st. Frequent approaches to the new Minister of Gender, Youth and Child Development always brought a very snug response that the matter was on government's agenda. As is well known, action by government was not forthcoming. A televised interview in the program Conversation with Andy Johnson brought additional focus to the issue and was also articulated upon by the HW at the request of particular groups, but these were few. In the meantime, the major women groups continued to make direct references to the signed commitment of Trinidad and Tobago to the requirements of CEDAW at their various meetings and workshops. Early in January 2016, the issue appeared to have become dormant for almost a year. Approximately 20 groups collaborated through the leadership of Folade, President, Director of the Women's Institute for Alternative Development. We spent time in developing a working relationship where every group had the right to express its position. While a group strategy for taking the issue forward was being explored, along came the Bocas Literary Festival, and on the 30th of April 2016, the Chief Justice, Ivor Archie, reignited the topic of child marriage at a panel on human rights at the National Library. With fierce opposition to change by Sat Maharaj, the head of the Mahasabha, the most powerful Hindu body in the country, the HW had no alternative but to reinforce its stance publicly. Our response was published in the Newsday of May 7th. When Hari Prasad Maharaj, president of the interreligious organization, expressed his fullest support for the retention of the Marriage Acts, many in the population became outraged. Archbishop quickly rejected the idea and contended that it was wrong to say that the decision was unanimous because the Catholic Church certainly does not agree with that position. The head of Swaha, a prominent Hindu organization, Pandit Hari Prasad, also called for changes to be made. Support for changing the Marriage Act continued to come from several organizations during the month of May, prompting the AG Faris Alwari to host a public discussion with religious leaders at the Radisson Hotel on June 1st. After presenting a wide range of statistics to the gathering, Alwari pointed to an upward trend of sexual offenses against females under 40, and then emphasized the fact that there was an increase in underage marriages by all denominations. Participants were then invited to share their views. Newspaper reports identified several bodies whose voices were not heard before. A representative of the Brahma Kumaris from the Raj Yoga Center quoted from Goal 5.3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which seeks to eliminate all harmful practices such as child, early and forced marriage, and female genital mutilation. Some Muslim groups denounced the support given to the retention of the Muslim Marriage Act by the former acting President of the Senate, Razia Ahmad. That the issue of child marriage is an ongoing one spanning a period of 5 years means that more and more members of the public are being made aware of its relevance to society, to our society. The downside to this is that while advocates for change channel most of their enemies to this one area of discrimination against girls, other critical areas such as abortion, teenage pregnancy, youth access to medical services, sex education in schools, etc., also need to be urgently addressed. The HWO therefore submitted a paper to the AG's office entitled Interrogating the Issue of Marriage for 14-year-olds, expressing its final position, which reflected scientific findings among others. In so doing, we reference points made by both the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Vasco Pandey, the former Prime Minister, and the President General of the Mahasabha, Satnarayan Maharaj. Early marriage, they said, had to do with the Mughal invasion of India, which preempted the appropriation of Indian virgin girls from being incorporated in the harems of Muslim leaders. Although this became the custom, it is generally accepted that the consummation of such marriages did not take place until much later, as boy and girl remained at their respective homes until they were much older. Since this form of protection was adopted centuries ago and girls are no longer faced with such a pernicious practice, a review of the adoption of this custom as a cultural norm becomes imperative. It demands that society takes on board the multitude of disadvantages that we call a minor when faced with the enormous impact of childbearing on her health, the psychological well-being, and other related factors, specifically as they relate to the risk of being infected with STDs and HIV/AIDS. We concluded by saying that as we examined some of the research literature produced by the University of Minnesota Medical School, we found that it has been established that the prefrontal cortex, That part of the brain that assesses outcomes, calls judgments, and controls impulses does not fully develop until the early 20s and does not mature at the same rate for every individual. Research studies have also indicated that experience can play a significant role in the development of the prefrontal cortex, and children exposed to a variety of stimuli and challenges may develop more quickly. It is on that basis that we have recommended that provisions be made for the marriage of youngsters between 16 and 18 years of age. We consider this position to be feasible only under the condition expressed in our revised petition, which is for permission to be granted in special cases and with strict checks and balances. After due consideration of the research literature, we consulted and taken into account the research findings as referenced by the Trinidad and Tobago Psychologists Association. We have come to the conclusion that we could not in good faith call for the marriage of 14-year-olds to be permitted. We have also taken on board the statement that in the last decade, a growing body of longitudinal research has demonstrated that adolescence is a period of continued growth and change, challenging long-standing assumptions that the brain was largely finished maturity by puberty. As societal needs have changed over the past 70 years, that is since 1945, and the detrimental effects of early and forced marriage have been widely articulated through various studies, we of the HW cannot endorse the retention of the existing Hindu Marriage Acts of 1945, nor the Civil Marriage Act, nor the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act as they stand today. Currently, the HWO continues to collaborate with the 20 or more groups that are working alongside WINAT in building public awareness to the ill effects of child marriage. This encompasses the use of social media, the traditional media, and directly appealing to all parliamentarians to support changes to the Marriage Acts of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.